This is Foxboro's Fortress, your home for all the latest on the New England Revolution. Brought to you by Leading Lights, LLC. Hello, back everyone to Foxboro's Fortress, your home for all the latest on the New England Revolution. Again, I'm Cecil Kenny,
And I'm Raphael Babchuk.
and today we're joined by former Chicago Fire forward Alex Morrell. Say hi.
Hey guys.
We're happy to have you on. This should be fun. This is our second of many exclusive episodes where we're diving in and covering the New England Revolution's hiring of Marko Mitrovic as head coach. So, might as well just dive right in. Um,
Let's do it.
Raf, tell me a little bit about Alex and his career. And then
So, Alex Morrell's career, he played multiple years in the USL along with the MLS. He spent 6 long years with stops in Tampa Bay, Chicago, South Georgia, and Greenville. Um,
yeah,
I got a question for you real quick. What's like for your career or what happened in your great career? What's like one moment that really impacted you that you thought in your career, like that really had a great impact on you just in terms of your entire career, not just with Marco?
Yeah, I got it. I think probably the biggest impact in my career was like that COVID year, which is when we won the championship actually for Greenville. The reason why I say it was a big impact is just because obviously the world had an impact with it, but it had a big impact on me, and because I had to be more stringent on what I was doing within the facility with my team, things of that nature. And I ended up having one of the best seasons of my career during COVID. So that was impactful because if I could do it during COVID when everything's going on, if I could be locked in like that, it just showed kind of who I was as a person and a player.
that's awesome. Many people did not have the greatest year, but it sounds like you had a pretty good year there. So that's
Yeah,
good to
yeah,
hear.
yeah.
Um, yeah, we're gonna slowly move our way into talking about Marko Mitrovic. Um, but how did you were drafted by the Chicago Fire? Um, in what ways? I know Marko was the assistant coach, not the head coach, but in what ways was Marko like present in your transition to into like professional soccer?
Yeah, he was big time. It's kind of funny. I was drafted. You mentioned that, but I never had any meetings with the Chicago Fire organization prior to me being like on draft night, which is kind of wild because during a draft you usually have meetings with teams that might draft you. But anyways, whenever I did get drafted to Chicago Fire, I knew what they were kind of bringing in right away. I knew that they were bringing in, Veljko Paunovic, the head coach, and Marko Mitrovic, from Serbia, and just kind of what they were doing with the national teams and stuff there. And I knew right away, kind of through different players, that they were going to be very, very player oriented coaches. And that's exactly what Marko Mitrovic is. He's a very, very player coach, meaning he just gets in with the players on the field, off the field, creates connections. So right away, you could tell that he had that approach to him, and he was very likable, and a lot of guys liked him right away.
That's great to hear. Yeah, we've heard a few stories here at Foxwoods Fortress. We had Tesho Akindele on last season, drafted into MLS, and so we've heard a few stories about that. And just in general, you hear a lot of stories about getting drafted to any league, really. As it's kind of a blind process. You don't always know what's going to happen. You might be expecting a team to draft you, and then you know things happen.
It's
Yeah,
a
they're all
wild ride.
different
It can be a wild ride, yeah.
It's
for sure.
it's never going to happen to
And
me,
since
but
you
ah, um, I'm gonna transition into a question that I'm probably gonna come back to. Um, but in what ways have you seen like how U.S. soccer and how that whole landscape has changed since you entered the league?
Yeah, so U.S. soccer as far as like national team, or just U.S. soccer as far as like USL and all that.
Um, really any level from the national team
Yeah,
all the way down to USL
the
two.
gist of it. Yeah. I think we all knew that like these like years and these days were coming where you're already talking about promotion relegation and stuff, right? Like it's already become kind of official. Um, So I think ever since I got into the league, the things that have just progressed are just like the value that players bring as players and people, like, and they get paid for that more. You know what I mean? Like you got your CBAs, that collective bargaining agreements that are by your side every step of the way. But not only that, just like coaches all the way up to owners, just seeing that value in players a little bit more ever since I kind of entered the pro soccer world.
Yeah, a ton of change we're seeing. You mentioned promotion relegation. Um, I want to see that in MLS. I personally don't think I'll see it for many years with San Diego FC paying $500 million for a franchise. And an owner is not going to be like, yes, they're having a really great year. It's not the greatest example on my half, but if San Diego FC meets the fate of any of the other recent clubs like Austin and St. Louis, they have a down season. That owner's gonna be like, all right, I just paid $500 million for a franchise. I'm not too keen on this whole relegation concept. So I don't think we'll see it in MLS, but I'm really happy to see it in USL. I'm a big RFC guy, just down the road from Massachusetts. So I'm
Yeah,
I'm happy to see it. Um,
there'll be
hope,
a learning curve with it, that's for sure.
oh yeah, 100%. It's
But I
it's
think, yeah, it'll be great for sure. I'd love it. I'd love it.
I
yeah,
agree. I
I'm
agree.
all for it. Um, yeah, let's hop over to Marko Mitrovic as a head coach. One question we'll come back to. But we'll hop into Marko Mitrovic, the former. Uh, he coached in Serbia as an assistant coach. He was an assistant. He was the head coach of one of their youth national teams. Came over to the States and was an assistant coach with Chicago Fire. That's where Alex came in contact with the Marko Mitrovic. Um,
Mhm.
Headed over to Reading in England, uh, and then ended up in the U.S. Uh, youth setup, and with their youth national teams, coached the Olympics there, had some success, and is now your New England Revolution's head coach, which, from what we're hearing, is a thing we're gonna like after a disastrous tenure under Caleb Porter.
Disastrous is a light word.
Yeah, I was about to say disastrous is an understatement to everything that
Understatement.
went wrong.
Mhm.
That was just terrible. Um, I'll start out with one of my biggest questions. Um, Alex, you had already kind of touched on this, but did you and the team genuinely like playing for Marco? I know he's the assistant coach, but
We absolutely did. So that year, if we just talk about that year for a minute, it was a bad year. It was a disaster year, like you just kind of talked about. But the whole time, we still had a lot of belief in the coaching staff. There wasn't a lot of guys like in locker rooms. You'll get a lot of guys chirping like, "Oh, we need a new head coach. We need to switch this. We need to." We stuck behind them, and it's because of who they are. It's because Marco would be on the field next to you all the time, and then right when you got off the field, he'd be wondering, how your family is, and this and that. He's like I said, he's a player coach, so that held us together. So you're getting a good guy, and there's a reason why he had all these great assistant coaching jobs and the careers that he has already had. Right. So you're in good hands, and he's going to reunite with some players that he's had in the past. Matt Polster. I know he'll like him there. So yeah, like I said, you're in good hands.
yeah, we love ourselves a Matt Polster. I'm a
Yeah, I
big
I love a Matt Polster too. So
Yeah,
Matt
he's a
Matt
good
Polster.
is
guy.
He's been here for a few years. He's become a great guy for this club. I'm a big
Mhm.
Al Hassan Yusuf fan. Um, Anyone who's ever watched this podcast knows that I will go on and on about his defensive midfield partner, Alsan Yusuf. But Matt Polster he's definitely been a great rev.
Yeah, he's the man.
Very, very consistently.
He's a good pro. Very good pro. Good person.
Oh yeah, 100%. Rev, you got something? A question for?
yeah. So going on to like how Marco was coaching, obviously as the assistant, but he was like, as you said, he's like a player coach. Do you think he was more like he obviously he's getting to know the players? Do you think he was like more demanding of them, like expecting something, or like motivating you as that player coach to do better?
Yeah, I guess he played a supporting role, obviously at Chicago. So I haven't experienced the head, what he's going to be like as a head coach, and maybe he doesn't even really know yet, as a head coach because is this his first head coaching job? And I haven't followed all of his career. I
Yeah,
don't know if he's.
his first club head coaching job.
That's what I thought. So I couldn't speak to that, but what I could speak to is just how he was supportive of the players whenever someone didn't understand maybe what Panovich was talking about, our head coach, as far we would go to Marko and Marko would explain it, and get it to a level that we could all understand and implement in the field and practice. So he was that guy. He was that guy that, if you don't understand something, you're going to him and he's gonna lay it out there pretty clearly.
That's awesome, you know.
Great to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah.
I heard someone say he made Panovich's coaching like philosophy easy to understand in like in one-on-one conversations, and it sounds like you're echoing the same thing.
Boom. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. As the assistant coach and in that more of supportive role, did Marco ever give you like a specific piece of advice that has stuck with you throughout, you know?
I couldn't think of any like words, like advice words that he gave necessarily. No, I think he just kind of embodied it. It wasn't like the advice, like words coming out of his mouth. It was just like his actions, and those like speak louder than words, right? So in that case, yeah, it's more of just like leading by example and showing rather than words of advice. That makes sense.
Hey, whatever way will
I
work.
think that's the best. I think that's the best way to show it.
I think
Really,
that might
because
be better, like
Mhm.
I agree. I think that might be better. Unlike Caleb Porter, who looked like he'd just be telling people what to do, not really showing them how. Or
Yeah, and
this,
it works and it feels good sometimes to hear those words, but you know, what does it really mean if you don't show it? So
I'm gonna have to make a rule on this podcast. We gotta stop bringing up Caleb Porter on this podcast. It's like it's getting to a point where like I can't hear his name anymore.
I haven't heard that name in a while, but
yeah,
Oh my God, that was a disaster. Just we gotta have an we gotta have an episode that's just based on just how bad was that Caleb Porter tenure actually.
but
yeah,
maybe we're moving on to a new era here in Foxborough.
Yeah,
Moving on to a new area.
new era in
Era.
Foxborough here. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, if you wanna hear more about Caleb Porter, it's not gonna probably come from this podcast. Go check out Caleb Pongratz's piece on the Prost International. I'm gonna continue to promote
there
that.
you
We had Caleb
go. I like
on,
it.
and he had a great piece over there. So I'm gonna continue to promote that. But enough with Caleb Porter. We got Marko Mitrovic. You know,
Yeah,
Yep.
um, I want to know what Marko was like off the field as a person.
yeah. I think I touched on it a little bit, but he was great. He was just easily approachable. Once he got off the field, he's pretty much just kind of just one of the guys. You know what I mean? Like he would just do things that you wouldn't think like you would be able to do with a coach. Like but he would. He would get, if you want to put it this way, he'd get down to like our level as a player and just hang out or have a beer or, whatever it is. Now, may that change a little bit because he is the head coach. You got to kind of separate yourself, to a certain degree. Maybe, yeah, but he'll always still have that piece to him, I think, and because that's what makes him who he is, in my
Yeah,
opinion. Maybe he would agree if he sees this or whatever, but yeah,
yeah. We've heard that Marko was like a brother to some of the guys on that Chicago Fire team. Um, and yeah, it
he
seems
cared. He cared a lot. So
that's that's really great to hear. I don't think Caleb Porter cared, but as long as we have a head coach that cares, maybe he can bring a staff that echoes his same philosophy, and that would be great. You know. Speaking of philosophy, um, I know he was the assistant coach. I'll say that a ton of times in this podcast, but is there like, did Marco have himself like a coaching style or a coaching philosophy, whether like it's in training or like while you're like at the game, even though he's the assistant coach?
Marco's philosophy in that aspect, I think, just kind of echoed what Pano was trying to do with the team, and that was create a very hardworking and training team, like atmosphere and team. And what I can remember like as clear as day. It's just like we talked about being basically a huge rondo, like on the field when you're playing. Like if you can have everyone somewhat like in a circle with triangles in the middle, obviously, and this is just kind of being basic about it. Um, then you're probably going to have success. Like if you just surround yourself with your teammates and have triangles in the middle and connect. So uh, Marco would just reiterate that over and over again, plus the hard work aspect and work ethic. So he'd be pushing you every day to understand that stuff. So and implement that. Yeah.
Sounds like, he's emphasizing a lot of the fundamentals if we're putting it that way. I know like he's worked with the US and Serbian youth national teams. But I feel like you see more of a straightforward and a less complex shape and a less complex like philosophy behind that just because you only get those guys for 2 weeks at a time every like 4 times throughout the season. Um and so you don't see that we haven't seen his Marco's coaching philosophy at this point. So
Yeah.
it's going to be exciting to see, what he does with the New England Revolution and, you know, how that all works out and how he kind of does he take that more simple um like national team like 4-3-3 or like 4-4-2 setup, or does he kind of branch out to what the Revs have been running, a 4-2-3-1, a 4-5-1? It'll be interesting how he sets up and how he decides to play at in New England.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's gonna be good regardless, just because of who he is, right? But and if he gets players to get bought in, obviously that's what everyone says. It's gonna have success, but he's the guy to do that. It won't be for a lack of believing in him, that's for sure.
That's great to hear.
Yep.
Yeah, Raf, you wanna take one?
Yeah. So when you're I know we were talking about bunch of positives, and that's great, but I like asking this question because playing the devil's advocate here. If you were
Yeah.
to say something, obviously he was the assistant, you didn't, and we said that a bunch of times, but if there was something either missing in the way he was coaching or something maybe you would have rather liked, anything you'd want to say, or
Yeah, you know what? Yeah. During my time, I feel like he could have probably spoke up a little bit more as an assistant coach towards Pano whenever guys were like either confused or trying to understand a philosophy or whatever it was. If it was something small at practice, like for example, I only have one example, and this is just to answer your question, right? Being a devil's advocate, we were in training, and I didn't quite get what Pano either said or the way we were running training. And I look over at Marco and I said, like, did you hear him? Like, what are we doing in this exact like drill, right? And he told me something different, and I bought into it because I trusted him, right? Because you're gonna trust him, and I trusted him after that too. It was just a mistake. Then I made the mistake of, and it was something different that Pano didn't want, right? And I got absolutely reamed, right? And
mm,
I'm a rookie, so I just got reamed by Pano in the middle, like in front of everybody. Emotions were high. Um, and after that, I'm not sure if he actually even spoke up to Pano or not. I can't like recall. But I guess for my instance, my personal kind of story, you know, I wish he would have spoke up a little bit more and said, hey, that was my bad. Or Alex didn't quite understand and I told him this or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's
yeah.
definitely rough.
Yeah.
As a player, I obviously have played town soccer, and am now a podcaster. But um, we've all had those moments. It happens. Um,
I'm sure yours was much more intense than Alex, but still, yeah. But I like how you know, and obviously playing the devil's advocate, but that's
Yeah, yeah.
great because all the information to know is the better.
And that was just one instance, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And after
If you,
that, it really wasn't
yeah,
that
you're only
much.
thinking of what you said, one example. Like that's the only one
Yeah.
you know, which You
That's
know, that means something for sure.
Yeah.
it's an outlier, you know. You're gonna have those when you're looking at a whole.
And you got to think he was also pretty fresh, kind of new into the soccer assistant coaching world at that level, right? So he probably had some nerves. He probably had, whatever it was around it too. So we were growing together as
And I'm
well.
sure as a head coach, he's not gonna have that problem as he'll obviously be running the team. So
Yeah. And I think he'll, whatever, maybe he doesn't even remember that instance, but I'm sure he had other instances maybe like that and experiences where now he's going to see as a head coach, like maybe a player doesn't understand it quite right and he can better kind of move those pieces and help that player out.
Yeah. If when he is in training with the Revs, I'm obviously not a player. I'm not in there. But with everything we've heard so far from everybody, I feel like that even if that like has happened more than once, because it's bound to happen at some point, I wouldn't put it. I'd put it pretty like I'd say it's pretty. I don't have a word right now. It's not coming to me, but um, I'm. I think he probably would have fixed that. Like he's had a bunch of stops. He's older. He's more experienced. In just every role. Um, so yeah, but obviously, if you can avoid that, the better. So hoping for the
Yeah.
best. Um, moving away from that side though, what do you think something we're gonna really like about Marco here in Foxborough?
If I know Marco, he's going to have a pretty great plan. He's going to come in hot, you know what I mean, with his he's just going to be prepared. So you're going to like that preparation. You're going to like that, players buying into him because of who he is and his personality. You're going to like when you see him out at community events or, whatever you see him at, he's going to be friendly and want to talk to you and hear opinions and formulate things based on those opinions. Um, yeah, you're just going to like him overall as a person. And he'll genuinely do it. You know what I mean? There's some head coaches that'll just do it because they have to. He's genuine, so you'll like that about him.
That's great to hear. So you said preparation. That means there won't have to be a tactics board out in the middle of a match, and I won't be hearing from a press conference that I just couldn't get that information in there. We got some great Caleb Porter quotes
yeah,
going.
great stories. He seems to always be on that tactical board. At least he used to.
I need like
Yeah, I mean, you always got to throw out the tactic board every now and then, right? But
That's true. Every now and then it's great. Every now and then is. I love it.
yeah, I'm
it,
just saying he'll have a plan. If not, he'll over plan. Like that's the only thing you got to worry about is probably over planning. Um, but who's ever going to get mad at kind of an over planner, right? But
Yeah,
he'll have things ready. He might have that tactic board out in the locker room, and even on the sideline. I guess he is very. Uh, he wants to show you visually what he's trying to talk about at the same time he's trying to explain it to you. He tries. Let's put it this way: he gives you every avenue possible for you to understand what he's saying.
nice. That's I love to hear that.
Hmm.
That sounds incredible. Over planning is something that we all know too much about. So hey,
yeah,
at least he plans. So
that's true.
we take.
But
Uh,
yeah, from what I'm hearing, it seems like obviously it's his first managerial club. So I mean, he's gonna probably have the same drive as most of the players. Most of all of our players want to succeed, and
That's a
I
good
know
point.
he's gonna want to succeed too.
That's a great point. Yeah.
it's
So
awesome.
that's gonna be really exciting.
Raph, you got one?
Yeah, we're obviously how you said we've how he's been like with the players, um how he's really gets in with the players as that assistant coach. So you think he'll make that change to head coach easily? You think he'll fit that role well?
I do. I do. I think he has like all the experience now based on what he's done after Chicago Fire and before and during Chicago. I think that he'll use all those resources and experience that he has and balance himself on and how close he'll get to the players on and off the field. I think it'll still be a good connection, maybe not as close because it's like I said, it's hard. But yeah, I think he'll have a really good balance based on the experience that he's gained.
Yeah, he's had what, 15 years of coaching. And still, I'm honestly surprised he hasn't had a club head coaching job up to this point. He's had he's been in management for a while. He's been assistant coach at many
Yeah,
different teams. Um, so I'm not shocked, but I am surprised that he hasn't had a job up to this point. But I think, as obviously I'm biased as a Revs fan, I think the Revs were a great starting point for him.
I agree.
Obviously I want him to stay for a while, but I feel like he may treat this opportunity as like a stepping stone. This could allow him to get to, Europe at some point and coach there. Um, but yeah, it'll be interesting how this goes. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm talking about the end before it starts. So
Yeah, I feel like I don't know, Alex maybe will agree with me with this. I don't think he'll necessarily think of this as like a stepping stone, but more like he's moving on obviously to assistant as a head coach and he's gonna give it his all, not as like just a stepping stone. I think you'll agree with me on this that he's gonna give his all and maybe he's thinking about that future and but you know what? I think right now he's focusing on what's next, which is this job.
Yeah, I think we obviously can't speak for him. I think he is probably always going to have that ambition, to maybe go for Europe. Like who isn't, right? If
Right.
you do well and Man United wants to sign, you're going to take it. But uh, Marco has been learning. You know what I mean? Like in these roles that he's been in, he's got that experience, and he has to have learned so much um, with his time in these roles. So that's going to translate.
yeah, 100%. Um, yeah,
Yeah, that's all the questions for me right now, I think.
for the most part, we've covered everything. Other than you've probably said this a million times, but if you could play for Marco again, but say he's the head coach this time, say you were, you know, with the Revs right now, and Marco came in as the head coach, um, what do you think you'd look forward to the most?
I probably look forward to I don't know, just like learning what he learned, probably. Just trying to soak up as much as I can from what he learned with his previous roles. Honestly, I think he'd be I don't know about much different, but I think he'd just elevate his coaching style and probably elevate who he is as a person, having more of a balance, like I said. So I would be looking forward to working with that if I was able to have that connection with him again as a head coach.
That's
Yeah, learning what he learned, that's great. That's that just shows,
the
what he's
sports.
gonna bring to this club. So
Hmm.
The sport's
Yeah,
obviously about winning, but everything's a learning experience. So always looking forward to that.
for sure.
And then I think this is probably my last one. Why should the fans? So we're not going to be in the locker room. We're not going to be with Marco as a coach. Excuse me. But what should we be excited about as fans going into Marco's tenure as Revs head coach?
Yeah, I think you're safe knowing that he's going to be all in. You know what I mean? And he won't just say that he's all in; he's going to show it. Maybe you've had coaches that have said that they're going to, be all in, and had signs of just lack thereof. Right? Um, he's gonna be an example. He's gonna show you on the sidelines. He's gonna show you visually. He's gonna show you in those community events how much he does care and how much he's bought into the community that he goes into. And a really good tell will be just how the players react when they come off the sideline or how they react for certain other situations, soccer situations. That's a good tell. So if you're looking for something, it's just kind of see how the players react to them, and that'll tell you a lot.
Well, we'll make sure to look out for that.
Mm.
Raph, you got anything else? You're muted. Okay.
He's shaking his head no, though.
All right. Well, that looks like it'll do it for today. Make sure you follow us, Foxboro's Fortress, on X and Instagram. Make
Sorry,
sure.
that's my bad. Someone's talking to me.
All right.
Had to mute
Uh,
button those conversations outside.
oh yeah,
Good.
we appreciate it. Make sure to show our guest Alex some love over on Instagram. A Morrell 9. I can speak. We can
No, no, it happens all the time. Don't worry about
we can do this.
it.
If you're on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. If you're on Spotify, make sure you're following. If you want to be on the featured next episode, leave a question or comment down below, and leave your thoughts there. Um, I think that's it. So, Raph, you're unmuted now. This was
Foxboro's Fortress.